This is The Catholic Current with Father Robert Matei.
Hey, you know what would be a great idea? Let's denature the church. What's the selling point for that?
What Archbishop Vigano has alleged is that there are some enemies within the church who essentially want to turn the church into a kind of ecumenical, nondescript, vague religion of the New World Order, religion of the one world government.
So kind of an NGO or the chaplaincy to the UN?
Exactly.
Praise be Jesus Christ. This is Father Robert Matei of the Society of Jesus, your daily host for the Catholic Current, where we bring Christ to the world and the world to Christ. You're listening to us from the Station of the Cross Studios, your local radio station and the iCatholic Radio mobile app, where we proclaim the fullness of truth with clarity and charity. As always, let's start with prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Almighty God, through the intercession of St. Ignatius Loyola, we ask that you pour forth your Holy Spirit upon us, a spirit of discernment, that you might hear your voice and obey your command. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, friends, if my voice sounds a little different, there is a good reason. When I'm traveling, I can't bring the whole studio with me. And sometimes on the road, I have to do the best I can. Right now, this is the best I can. You'll want to stay with us for the whole hour. We're talking about defending life and liberty. Second half of the show, we're going to welcome back Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona. We're going to be talking about defending liberty. First half of the show, we'll have a returning guest. She's Senior Fellow and Director of Life Sciences at the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Dr. Tara Sanderly, welcome back to the Catholic Current.
Thank you so much, Father. It's really exciting to be back.
Dr. Lee, you know that abortion is in the news again for a number of reasons. One is the recent heartbeat law in Texas that has had a real significant impact on access to abortion. There are a number of Supreme Court cases heating up. And apparently the pro-abortion forces are moving in the direction of desperation because they're back to it's just a clump of cells. There's not any really organs. That trope that we've been hearing for almost 50 years now. The Charlotte Lozier Institute has started an exciting new website called voyageoflife.com, which we're going to link to in the show notes. Tell us about that, please.
Oh, thank you, Father. Yes, we are so excited to finally share this project, this website that we have been working on and researching for nearly 2 years. It is a powerful and illuminating resource that's designed to teach about human life, the human life that each one of us had developing inside our mother's womb. And so womb, the website is unlike any other. It is, a lot of times science can get really obscured in scientific jargon and complex journals. And a lot of people don't even have access to these journals. And so it's, even if they're inaccessible, even if they're even accessible, they're going to be hard to understand. So we have taken the time and the energy, and we have been doing the research so that you don't have to, and you can go onto this website. You really have to see it for yourself. We have laid out week by week, month by month, the beauty of human development. We really are showcasing the humanity of the unborn and how each of us has been knit together in our mother's womb in a beautiful and wonderful way. We are so excited to finally share this.
Well, one of the things that I find thrilling, visually it's stunning, and there's so much information in an accessible manner and in a small space. You don't have to commit a semester to this. You can just go along for the ride and watch human life unfold from conception to birth. And it shows that there really is an alignment between the true, the good, and the beautiful. I think you'd have to be a cinder block to look at what's depicted here at voyageoflife.com and not be moved, not be astounded, and say, this is the real truth of what it means to be a member of the human family. And it turns out that following the science, it is on the side of life. And so at each phase of life, with each stage of development, there's milestones about heartbeats, about fingerprints, about feeling pain, about becoming left-handed, or it's almost dazzling. Now, you're a scientist. You've been following this for 20 years now. But seeing it this way, the whole panorama of life, super concentrated, what has that done for you?
That's a great question. Well, first, I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot as part of the research, working with my colleagues who are just brilliant. These are credentialed scientists and medical doctors. This is what they have been trained to do, what they went to school for. And especially these medical doctors that, these are physicians that practice in obstetrics and gynecology, right? These are the babies that they see every day inside the womb. So first of all, it's been incredible to work with so many amazingly, amazing, smart people because I have learned so much. But like you said, it has just reminded me of just how wonderful human life is and how God loves detail, right? He has
Right.
planned everything so marvelously. And everything from, as you mentioned, to we are able to tell you because we know from science of how God created us that the human heart has its first heartbeat just 22 days after fertilization. And that heartbeat is beating rhythmically at least 98 beats per minute. And it can increase to a rate of 110 beats per minute just within that first week. So I have just been amazed by some of these facts that I have been reminded of, but also have learned. And it has just been probably one of the most rewarding projects that I have been involved with in a very long time.
Well, as a priest, I can't help but look at these dramatic, astounding true images and think of Psalm 139, which says, "Behold, Lord, I am fearfully, wonderfully made. You knit me in your mother's womb." The psalmist got there before the science did, but the science has confirmed what the psalmist knew, that there's no such thing as just mere human life. From conception, this great biological, chemical, anthropological, spiritual drama, the symphony is unfolding before our eyes. How can we not be moved by that? What is your hope? You and your colleagues, you've worked so hard, you've worked brilliantly. What's the desired outcome when the ordinary person looks at the Voyage of Life website for the first time?
I think the first time that somebody sees the Voyage of Life, we hope that they are full with awe and wonder, as you said, as we know what's written in the Psalms. When King David first wrote, like you said, that our frame was not hidden from God when made in that secret place, that they will see the 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 reality of that, the science of that, in the website. We hope, just to give you a snapshot, I mean, we have videos that show the baby, animated videos that show the baby forming from the very beginning all the way up until birth. We have the opportunity for people to dive deeper. So not only will you be able to just get the basic facts and highlights, to be filled with awe and wonder, but you'll also be able to dive deeper if you desire, and to understand more of the issues maybe that are happening right now. For example, like Down syndrome, right? We know that a lot of states are putting forth these discrimination bans so that babies that are diagnosed or at risk for Down syndrome inside the womb will not be aborted, that they will be protected. So we have a whole dive deeper section on Down syndrome and how does one even determine before birth if a baby is at risk of Down syndrome. We even go into having, describing some of the confusing calculations that people struggle with and the nitty gritty details. So on each page of development where we go into the details, you will see in detail the human prenatal age, both at the post-conception age, and then the gestational week age. So, and then we've also, if you want to dive even deeper, we've given you the full bibliography of over 250 scientific references that you can actually go yourself and find that literature, and you could see where we received those facts and the type of research that we did. So, and then of course, once you've done your own analysis, we really hope that people will share it broadly with others, share it with their friends, with their family, and just continually use it as a resource. We really envision this as a living, breathing website. We will continue to provide updates and make it even bigger and better as the days go ahead.
Well, as I look at that, I thought back to the time I was a hospital chaplain. This is 25 years ago, and a child was about to be born at an extremely early time, and I was there to provide an emergency baptism in case one was needed. And the thing that I marvel at, we're all in this room. There's a room full of professionals. Everyone has $1 million education, millions of dollars of life-saving equipment. And I said, but just down the street for a couple $100, you could cancel that life. And so one of the things that struck me is we have to owe reverence to human life. We have to welcome each member of the human family, or we fail the truth, the beauty, and the goodness that the Voyage of Life website has presented to us before our eyes in a way that is undeniable and, more importantly, unforgettable. Friends, we come back. We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Tara Sandra Lee. She's Senior Fellow Director of Life Sciences at the Charlotte Lozier Institute. We're talking about the new website called thevoyageoflife.com. Life in the womb from conception to birth. It's an amazing journey. You want to stay with us for the whole hour. The second half of the show, I'll be welcoming back Arizona Congressman Gosar. We're going to be talking about defending liberty. Our rallying cry here at the Catholic Current is Christus Mundo, Mundus Presto, bringing Christ to the world and the world to Christ. Let's do it together. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Please do stay with us.
You're listening to The Catholic Current with Father Robert Matej from the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. Stay connected with the show, our guests, and topics by following the show on Twitter and Gab. Just search for The Catholic Current.
Praise be Jesus Christ. This is Father Robert Matej of the Society of Jesus, the host of the Catholic Current, where we bring Christ to the world and the world to Christ. You're listening to us in the Station of the Cross Studios, your local radio station, and the iCatholic Radio mobile app, where we proclaim the fullness of truth with clarity and clarity. You know that I've been on the road traveling to speak at the National Conference of the Catholic Medical Association. When I travel, it means I can't bring the studio with me, so right now, we hope just for today we've got the best sound quality we can manage and hope to be back to a regular level of quality tomorrow. We're talking about defending life and liberty. You want to stay with us for the whole hour. The next segment we're going to have Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona talk about defending liberty. We're talking about defending life right now with our returning guest, Dr. Tara Sandra Lee of the Charlotte Lozier Institute. We're talking about the new website called voyageoflife.com. You know, Dr. Lee, for some people, abortion was invented in 1973 with Roe versus Wade. And the idea is that somehow we haven't really learned anything. And so all those arguments from back in the day, it's just a clump of cells, it's not really human, there's no pain, there's no identity, et cetera, it's like having a cyst removed. It was a lie then. It was a lie. And we know that from the Time magazine covers from 1965. In terms of the technology, what we can see, what we can know, how has our knowledge expanded since Roe versus Wade?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's a lot of there are a lot of statements being made that somehow, science has stood still and no advancements have been made, and we're exactly where we were before, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm going to give you, I wish we had hours and hours because there's many examples, but I'm just going to hone in on the main one, and that is ultrasound. Some major advancements have been made in ultrasound since Roe v. Wade. So I just want to focus that, some of the first attempts and early discoveries date back to the late 50s and early 60s with ultrasound, trying to visualize the baby being developed inside the womb. Mm-hmm. But But we know that it's clear that these earlier models really had poor resolution and were hard to visualize the fetus. It really wasn't until the mid to late 70s, so after Roe v. Wade, when huge advancements were made with equipment development, and they were able to show, they then knew that they were able to then transport them, and they were widely available for training and clinical application. And so even in the US, it wasn't until the late 70s, ultrasound really didn't become widely used in the US until the late 1970s after Roe. So what did that allow us to do? Well, first, being able to visualize the baby inside the womb, first we were able to see, we would be able to see just how many complex behaviors the baby has inside the womb. And we knew that the baby could, practice these behaviors before even being born, just like we do outside the womb, hiccuping, yawning, they practice breathing. I mean, there was just so, there's even a preference for whether they're going to be left or right-handed inside the womb before birth. But all of these advancements in science also allowed them to combine fetal surgery with the ultrasound, so they could then visualize these birth defects, and then they were able to go in and actually develop these amazing techniques, usually really fine-tuning these surgical tools that could go in and perform surgery on these babies before birth, which increased survivability, which increased their function after birth. And so this really revolutionized the ability to be able to not only detect what is going on with the baby inside the womb, but actually fix what's happening with the baby inside the womb for some disorders.
I just want to interject for a moment and then have a question. So in other words, ultrasound allowed the child to be treated like a patient rather than as an intruder. All right, so we're talking about a member of the human family who could be treated and improved and even saved by timely medical intervention. So it staggers me that we can do that and yet countenance conversation that we're not dealing with a real human being. I find that mind-boggling. Can you give examples of some of the treatments that can be done in the womb now that would have been unimaginable, say, when my mother was of childbearing years?
Absolutely. So there's one is spina bifida. So very early on in development, the spinal cord develops, but if it doesn't close properly, then it's called the neural tube. The spinal cord comes what's called the neural tube, and you can read all about this on the website. But if it doesn't close properly, then there's actually like this open wound that is incredibly painful to the baby, but also dramatically affects the functioning of this baby, so that they cannot walk after birth, and it can actually affect the survivability of this baby. So what they're actually able to do is go in before birth and actually repair that neural tube and close it so that the baby can survive and function. And they're just showing incredible progress. Another one is twin-to-twin transfusion, where during twins that the blood flow between the twins does not flow properly. So you actually have one twin that can basically gets more blood than the other. And both babies can be at significant risk. So they found that you can actually go in and repair this, recorrect the blood flow, and it really increases the possibility that both of these twins will survive. And they have shown that they can perform this surgery successfully as early as 14 weeks after conception. And I also want to point out that what's really important is that they need to use anesthetic during these surgeries because the babies feel pain, right? So
Oops.
they need to
anesthetize you said the quiet
both.
Part out loud, doctor.
Right.
because,
Yeah,
because
I know. So I mean, that just says it right there.
Can't feel pain. Right.
Right.
So, let me interject again, Doctor. I think of, Time Magazine had the drama of life before birth, in 1965, and this was considered big news. I mean, now that we have more information and more vivid pictures and more implications than ever before, I have to imagine that your colleagues at voyageoflife.com are being flooded by requests from the mainstream media so that we could have an updated cover of Time magazine. The good folks from The View, Hollywood starlets must be pounding on your door saying, tell us more. Tell us more. How have you been managing your busy calendar with demands from the mainstream media for this scientific information?
Oh, Father, I wish that were the case. That would be, but we can always pray for a miracle. but but we
Sure.
do, but we are getting lots of requests, of course, to share this exciting news. But no, unfortunately, there are some media outlets that want to continue to ignore the science. Despite centuries of scientific discovery and technological advancement that have provided indisputable proof that from the moment of conception, that is the creation of a new, totally distinct human being, right? And then we go on to show the beauty of that development all the way through up until birth. So you're right. I mean, even it's undeniable. Unfortunately, some people are pounding down the door, but there are many that are not, because to them, by ignoring the science, it continues to justify, it just continues to justify their support of killing a child inside the womb all the way up until birth. I mean, once you see these images, that undeniable truth that this is a human being. This is a human being that deserves, there's sanctity of life, and it deserves respect, protection.
Oh, well, speaking as a priest, I was preaching yesterday, and I said a very prominent Catholic politician was at a meeting of legislators in Rome anticipating a UN meeting on climate change. And she said, oh, how wonderful as a Catholic to be in Rome, because it reminds me that my faith demands that we respect the dignity and the divinity in every human person. We have to manage climate change because it's for the children. And this very same person, a mother and a grandmother, recently sponsored a bill that would give dump trucks full of money to people who at the end of their business day would literally have to wash the blood of children off their hands. So I very much hope that Voyage of Life ends up in the inbox of every member of Congress and at every level of the federal bench as well. And I'll get back off my soapbox because I want to talk more about the science. Can you give us another example of how this breakthrough in technology is helping to heal children in the womb and make treatments available to them that were never available before?
Yeah, I think probably the one thing I want to mention that we go into great detail in our website is how technology has advanced to save extremely premature babies. So at earlier and earlier stages, and it is just incredible. So years ago, doctors were surprised to save children born at 21 weeks after conception. Now, treating children at 21 weeks after conception has become more of commonplace. There are actually hospitals throughout the United States that we know are, they advertise that they can actively treat babies with active intervention beyond 20 weeks. And so this is a huge advancement that babies that we once thought, once they were born extremely premature, that there was no hope. We know that technology has advanced to the point where they can save these babies. And we have some pictures of what an extreme, what kind of care do extreme premature babies need. And that is probably one of the biggest advancements, in addition to the fetal surgery, that has really moved forward in saving these precious little ones before, at a very young age.
See, I find this a joyful and an astounding thing that science is catching up with what faith has always known, that we're made in the image and likeness of God, that we're made for a very great purpose, and we're made with awe-inspiring dignity and complexity, and that dismissing human life, expelling any member of the human family simply because they're unwanted or inconvenient is not only an act of physical violence, an act of spiritual violence as well. Doctor, in the minute or so we have left, what do you think will happen? What do you think the response is going to be in the culture as this information gets out?
I think in a nutshell, I think hearts and minds will be changed. I really do. And I really believe in my heart that this was a task that we were given to do by God. And we have worked very hard to bring this and to fruition and to share it with others. And we really believe in our hearts that hearts and minds will be changed so that they will know deep down in their soul that every child that has been created by God and is developing inside the womb is a precious life that deserves protection, that is a human being. And that's really what we hope in the days ahead, that one by one people will begin, their eyes will be opened.
Well, I hope so too. God bless your good work, friends. Please rush to the website, voyageoflife.com. Dr. Tara Sanderlee, again, a delight speaking with you. I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much, Father. Have a blessed day.
I'm Jesuit Father Robert McTague. You want to stay with us for the rest of the hour? In the next segment, we'll welcome back Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona. We've been talking about defending life. In the next segment, we're going to talk about defending liberty. After the broadcast today, go to thestationofthecross.com, get our resources list, download our audio as podcast. Everything you need to take this conversation to your family and friends, we give to you. Together, let's take it around the world. Follow us on your favorite channel. Let's attract the attention of the algorithms so these conversations get the attention they deserve. We're back in just 2 minutes. Stay with us.
And what will happen on the day of judgment when God says, I gave you wealth, I gave you your health, I put you in a mission field. You did nothing. You neglected the suffering and the poor. They were literally right down the highway from you. And when he asks, why did you use all those blessings only for your own comfort and ease?
Sermons for Everyday Living, weekdays from 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern on the Station of the Cross.
This is The Catholic Current from the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. Catch up on an episode you've missed or share them with your family or friends. The Catholic Current is podcasted wherever you enjoy listening. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and the iCatholic Radio mobile app.
Praise be Jesus Christ. This is Father Robert McTague of the Society of Jesus, your daily host of the Catholic Current, where we bring Christ to the world and the world to Christ. You're listening to us from the Station of the Cross Studios, your local radio station, and the iCatholic Radio mobile app, where we proclaim the fullness of truth with clarity and charity. I want to reflect a bit on the title of the show, the Catholic Current. The Catholic part is always obvious because I'm here. And sometimes I need help with the current part, people who have their fingers on the pulse of what's taking place in politics and culture. Towards that end, we have a returning guest. He is the U.S. Representative for Arizona's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Paul Gosar. Welcome back to the Catholic Current.
Thanks for having me on, Father McTague.
Congressman Gosar, one of the biggest stories of the fall season has been the Texas heartbeat law. It survived some last-minute challenges. There are people who herald this as the end of the world. Uber and Lyft are offering to drive women out of state for abortions. The governor of New York is talking about turning New York into kind of a sanctuary state for women in Texas who are seeking abortions. There's some suggestions that this particular case might open the door for more significant challenges at Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court season. What's the latest in terms of challenges and response to the Texas heartbeat law?
Well, I mean, from the legislative aspect, Father McTague, you saw the H.R. 3755, which is the Women's Health Protection Act. So the Democrats went right after this. And what this does is they actually up the ante. This would allow an abortion all the way up to the date of birth. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable what they're looking at. Murdering babies. It's unbelievable. You know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is bestowed to all of us. How is it that the unborn don't have those same rights? So we've seen that. We've seen a number of challenges. In fact, they tried to abridge this with the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not overrule a lower court. And so I think we're going to see a number of challenges. I know Mississippi is now on the docket for the Supreme Court in their run, so that will have further definitions. But the Texas law basically is very unique because what it does is it doesn't go to criminal penalties, which were a lot of people weren't enforcing them, but it allows for civil remedies. So if you're connected to this individual, you have the ability to bring civil relief into the courts, which is kind of interesting because public defenders or prosecutors don't enforce many of the anti-abortion type bills.
And it seemed to me too that what really stood out for me as a Catholic is that the support was garnered, especially from self-identified Catholics in Congress who are proud alumni of Catholic schools and universities as well. And I'm hoping that the Catholic bishops take note of this and scratch their head and say, maybe we should say or do something about this. It also seems to me too that if the powers and principalities in charge like you, you get defended and protected. And if they don't like you, you don't get defended and protected. Case in point is the recent kerfuffle. University of Arizona students were in a multicultural safe space and were found to have some objectionable or identified as objectionable messages on their laptop computers, and a video of an encounter ensued. Can you fill us in on that, please?
Yeah, so these two Caucasian gentlemen were studying in an area, and they were assailed by a group of minorities that said that they couldn't be in that spot at that time. I mean, talk about going back in time to the 1960s. It is unbelievable. And they had, that's right, it's multicultural. They're multicultural. So, I mean, they could have had a chance to stay. But ASU did not really stand up for the two students. And so now the students are actually bringing this to light and trying to herald it. Because we have to have, these spaces have to be open for everybody. We're taking this racism way too far, you know, and just using the moniker racism tells me a lot about the person using that moniker to describe somebody. You ought to be equal opportunity across the board.
Well, my understanding was that what really started the ball rolling was that at least one of the students had a sticker on his laptop that said "Police Lives Matter," and that generated indignation. But at least in the video that I saw, there didn't seem to be reasoned debate, the kinds of things that you think university student would be trained to do, to marshal evidence and argument, to kind of fight for his corner, fight for his side, to be an advocate for his idea. Instead, there just seemed to be name calling and expressions of indignation. Now, I'm a former university professor. That process seemed like a kind of a failure of what higher education should be doing. What are your thoughts on that?
It should be, Father. And I went to a Catholic university at Creighton. And so my thought was that it should be an open avenue for exchange of ideas. It doesn't matter what idea you had, but you had the ability to debate it. And that's not what's happening now. Now what we've done is we've politicized this segregation type application that we're seeing across the country. And it shows that the schools themselves, the universities, are promoting this left-leaning agenda and rewarding it. So it makes it very, very tough for the average citizen to stand up and be counted. And if it's a minority that stands up, they're labeled as an Uncle Tom or, a fascist, or, a number of names go with it. But I mean, this has got to stop. And if it doesn't stop, then we got to stop the funding of these universities.
Congressman, since we're talking about education and ideas, it seems rather than argue for ideas, the culture is trending towards menacing people who have ideas that we don't like. For example, if you watch the videos of a lot of student board meetings these days, parents seem to be very greatly concerned about critical race theory being taught in schools, especially to very young children. And the Department of Justice, through the Attorney General, has said that the FBI is going to be investigating parents as potential domestic terror threats because they're objecting to a politically contentious idea being taught to young children. Do you think this move is merited?
Absolutely not. I mean, this shows you that the policing state that we have now seen the United States move to. You know, parents have a responsibility when they bring kids into this world. They're responsible for their upbringing, their education, their well-being all the way across the board. And here you've got, you know, particularly in Virginia, where you actually had a Democratic contender for the governorship, Terry McCullough, basically say that it's none of the parents' business. And then they went further by extrapolating the legal aspect by calling them domestic terrorists. This is a really big, bad deal. I mean, you know, back in the National Defense Authorization Act, when I first came into Congress, there was a line that was actually put in there. It allowed for the indefinite detention of American citizens. And what that has done is, from the riot that occurred January 6th, they've used that to incarcerate people without their being charged with anything, being held in solitary confinement. And now they're extrapolating that to parents. That is absurd. The legal department does not belong there.
No, I find this puzzling, and I find it alarming. Again and again, we're finding that if you criticize people in office who have access to men with badges and guns, you can expect those agencies to be turned against you. I don't think that's good for democracy or debate, and I'm not inspired by that. And it seems that when the truth does come to light, it gets shoved aside. Case in point, there have been some recent Project Veritas videos released raising questions about vaccinations, about the good faith of the vaccine companies. And there's been some alarming statements made by people who are in the employ of the federal government. Are any of these Project Veritas videos under discussion among you and your colleagues in Congress?
They are. In fact, I highlighted one. Down here in Phoenix, we have one of the Indian Health Services medical hospitals. And what was discovered there was that they were not reporting the side effects from these vaccines. In fact, the patient they talk about actually was a young man with no problems whatsoever. And once he gets the vaccine, he has congestive heart failure. And what that's disturbing about that is that that's prearranging the results before the results are even tabulated, which means that you have no idea how efficacious or safe that vaccine is because you're not seeing the whole gamma of the complications. Number two is it's a slight on the individual because there's a fund set aside for those people that do have reactions to the vaccine. And if they don't know it's to the vaccine, they have no right to go to that compensation fund. So this is horrendous what's going on. You're seeing the Biden administration forcing people to get it. You're seeing big businesses doing this. And now we see a report that comes out from India, Fetal, India, where they actually used ivermectin. And they had basically taken COVID to nothing. This was over 70,000 healthcare workers in a very populated part of India. And but I guess what it transpires into being, Father, is that the pharmaceutical companies are more interested in making the dollar than they are treating the patient.
Well, I find, I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't give medical advice on the air, but I do know something about human nature in human history. And my understanding is that there are universities who are going to require wristbands of students where they can announce their vaccine status one way or the other. I know in New York City, to go to restaurants or bars, for example, and some other businesses, you have to provide proof of vaccination. It seems to be kind of a vaccine apartheid. And there are some restaurants where you can eat indoors if you're vaccinated, only outdoors if you're not vaccinated, unless you need to use the restroom. Then you can kind of walk in and then walk out. And I don't know, a lot of our listeners have not been in men's rooms, but it's really hard to maintain 6 feet social distancing when you're side by side in urinals 3 or 4 feet. 3 or 4 men across, as you would say in an airport. So it seems to me that whatever the good intentions people may have, the circumstances of reality on the ground don't seem to play a part. It's like the outdoor ATM machines at banks. We're 6 feet apart vertically, but side by side horizontally. So apparently, the virus only flows up and down, and not to the left and the right. And whatever the merits are for distancing or masks or mandates, a lot of it seems to be very poor medical security theater. And I think it's planting the seeds in a lot of people's minds that what we want is not so much people's safety as people who are obedient. And that doesn't inspire confidence in me. That I think that's moving us in a direction that we definitely do not want to go. Friends, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with our returning guest, Congressman Paul Gosar. He's been U.S. Representative for Arizona's 4th Congressional District since 2013. In the next segment, we're going to talk about economic matters. What does it mean when you see the words "your tax dollars" at work? After the broadcast today, go to thestationofthecross.com, get our resources list, download our audio as podcasts. Be part of the conversation. Follow what we're following by following us on Gab. That's gab.com. Our channel is The Catholic Current. Take this conversation to your family and friends, and together we'll take it around the world. We're back in just 2 minutes. Please do stay with us.
After today's broadcast, go to the Catholic Current show page on thestationofthecross.com for info on today's guests, the show resource links, and to sign up for our weekly email of upcoming shows.
Praise be Jesus Christ. This is Father Robert McTague of the Society of Jesus, your daily host for the Catholic Current, where we bring Christ to the world and the world to Christ. You're listening to us from the Station of the Cross Studios, your local radio station, and the iCatholic Radio mobile app, where we proclaim the fullness of truth with clarity and charity. My returning guest for this half of the show is Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona's 4th Congressional District. Congressman, I did want to talk about the economy, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the status of the Arizona vote audit. I know Maricopa County was in the news for some time, and then it seems to have fizzled. What's the status of the audit and its aftermath?
Well, one of the things that was problematic is they haven't been able to get all the information that they needed, like the routers, which that tells exactly what data was moved through the system at what given time. And then they haven't been able to go through these invalid, what they call illegal ballots. There's over 80,000 of them. 73% of them are Democrat. And what ends up happening, these are ballots that don't have a signature or a scribble that doesn't even match up to more than 1 or 2 points on recognition software. And so there's plenty of evidence that they've shown inside the computers. Computers have been wiped, information removed from them and stripped and moved. So they actually sent the referral for criminal investigation to the Attorney General of Arizona, Mark Brnovich, who will be following up on that. But we're not done. But for all experts that have seen the results, it shows unequivocally more votes causing problems than they actually the new.
It's greater than the putative margin of victory.
Well, they're talking about there may be over 700,000 ballots altered. And that's why the software like this Dominion and ES&S are problematic. So we need to get that information. We need to hold people accountable. But for most experts, they said it's unequivocally there was fraud in this election. enough to return the electors back to the state of Arizona and not to the Biden administration.
Congressman, I've never run for office, but it seems to me that if I won an election and then I was told that I had cheated at the election, I would welcome every conceivable audit to verify the authenticity of my victory. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it, that someone who claims to have won the most amount of presidential votes ever, their supporters seem to be dragging their feet on proving their case. Is that a head scratcher to you?
No, because Father, there's a movie on HBO and YouTube called Kill Chain. It was actually done by the Democrats following the 2016 election and Donald Trump, and they show in the front how problematic these machines are and the system is. And so now they were in uproar to 2020 November, and now they don't want to have clarity. People, the voting citizens of this country, need to know that when they cast their ballot, it goes to the right person for the right reasons, not for some machine or some algorithm that changes that, or somebody that allows people to vote who shouldn't be able to vote. That was the premise of this country. It's a republic. Not all democracies are republics. All republics are democracies. But that republic is that extra little linchpin for safety and making sure that the individual rights and
the rights of minorities are also protected as well. I think of that chilling observation from Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, who said, "I don't care who votes, I only care who counts the votes." And I think sadly that cautionary tale is being illustrated before our eyes. Congressman, I want to shift a little bit. Back in the early 1990s, James Carville made a name for himself when he was directing Bill Clinton's staff with the observation, "It's the economy, stupid." That, we can talk about lots of different things, but if people can't eat or pay their bills, they start to get angry and they start looking for change. The recent spending and the spending bills that are being discussed in Congress these days, multiple trillions of dollars, and some members of Congress and some members of the present administration have said, well, the U.S. government always has all the money that it needs. I don't think you can print money out of nothing to infinity. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm just a humanities major. Are you concerned about present spending trends?
Absolutely. And what we've seen, Father, is a flood of dollars into the marketplace where it's actually devaluing our money. We're also making people more accountable or reliant on the government. You don't have to go to work. You'll get X amount of dollars in unemployment benefits. You don't have to pay your rent. We're going to continue that process down the road. So once again, we've short-circuited the supply chains. So now we're dependent on countries like China for our innovative materials like rare earths and critical minerals. And then we're selling ourselves off on the Green New Deal when they won't even take on the second most cataclysmic events in pollution, which is catastrophic wildfires. I mean, it is a government overreach all the way around. And then even going down to, in this bill, it says that the IRS will have the ability, the Treasury, to look into anybody's account that has $600 or more, or actually has a purchase or sale of $600. This is way too much overreach of the federal government. But that's what they want, Father. That's what they want.
And one has to wonder why. I can't remember the last time I actually had $600 in my checking account, but my circumstances are rather peculiar that way. But it seems to me just an intrusion, the idea that there is no such thing as privacy, that the government can look anywhere at any time, reserve that information, and then use it against you whenever it wishes. This is a kind of absolutism that I think would make North Korea envious. How do we push back against this?
Well, what we do is we got to get on the phone and start calling our elected officials. You got a little bit of a stay because you had members that couldn't get along on the Democratic side. But remember, elections have consequences. And we need to make sure that they hear us loud and clear. It's not about the dollars. It's about the programs. And I want to make sure people understand that. What they're debating about is just the dollars. So they're going to decide, are they going to spend $5.5 trillion or $1.5 trillion? Somewhere in between. It's the policies that are embedded in here, like our previous conversation about abortion. In this bill, they're trying to take out the Hyde Amendment, which basically had protected taxpayers from having to pay for abortions. They're going to get rid of that. I just told you about the banks. Then there's a red flag law in here in all this aspect. And what that basically does is attacks our Second Amendment rights. If you're accused of something, you're found guilty instead of being innocent until proven guilty. It is absurd what is in this bill. And how it's going to change our country. So call your representatives, tell them that you don't want this. Stand up at your school boards. These freedoms are not free. We got to stand up. All of us, not some of us, all of us have to stand up. You have the rights under the First Amendment to petition your government, to assemble, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We need to use it.
And I'll point out, according to natural law theory, which Catholics endorse, that our rights come from God. They're not privileges granted by the government. Congressman Paul Gosar of the 4th Congressional District of Arizona, thank you for your time today. I'm glad you're a guest, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you very much, Father.
I'm Jesuit Father Robert McTighe, your host every day here at the Catholic Current. Join us tomorrow for another lively conversation where we apply timeless truths to timely topics. Through the intercession of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, may Mighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Go in peace, and please do pray for me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast brought to you by the stationofthecross.com, a listener-funded nonprofit organization. Please prayerfully consider donating at thestationofthecross.com by calling 1-877-888-6279 or through our free iCatholic Radio mobile app.